Just like there are different religions, there are different spiritual paths within. Okay, so Christians may have a spiritual path within, I'm sure they do. Muslims have, and so we call that Sufism. But it's not like other than Islam. Our book is the Quran and the sayings of the Prophet. Our practices are imitating the Prophet. It's nothing other than that. The only difference you might say is that if there is a difference, I can't call it a difference, but Sufism is practicing Islam with a deep understanding, really, with depth. And the difference between a regular Muslim and a Sufi is that a Sufi believes that he needs a guide living right now. I mean, we can read the Quran, we have stories of the Prophet's life, but an example here and now is very helpful. So Sufis usually have a sheikh or a guide. It's like you're an athlete and you know how to take care of yourself, you exercise, you run, keep fit, but if there is an Olympic competition, you really need to be good at it. And so you hire a trainer, you see. So a sheikh, a Sufi master is like a trainer who sees how your progress is going. Because people often, unless you have someone who is looking after, by yourself you may not be tell how mature you are spiritually. Just because somebody has read the Quran, read the Hadith, read Rumi from beginning to end, doesn't mean they're spiritually very advanced in practice, because it's a question of realization, not just memorization. I mean, let's say I know a lot of things what Rumi said. That doesn't mean that I'm spiritually very high, because it's a matter of making it part of your life, right? So the difference between a normal Muslim and a Sufi, I think, is this the only one. That a Sufi believes that he needs a guide here and now, like a living example of the wisdom of the Prophet or the wisdom of the Quran, here and now. Without a guide, you cannot be just Sufi like that. Because you read Rumi doesn't make you a Sufi. Okay. And Rumi didn't start Sufism. Rumi doesn't have a philosophy of his own. People often ask me, what was his philosophy? He has no philosophy of his own. He's speaking about the Quran and the Prophet said, with a depth of understanding. Let's say you're an expert on Plato. It doesn't mean that, I mean, you have to kind of realize exactly what Plato said. You need experience. You cannot just say it by memorization. Okay. So, that was not exactly your question, perhaps, but...
So how is Rumi most effective or most inspiring?
How?
Yeah, or what part of Rumi?
Well, you know, of course, he's not right here, but you might say, what part of Islam inspires me? Rumi is just a spokesperson. Okay. And he said in one of his writings that, his most famous collection is known as the Mathnawi. There are two famous collections. One of them is Mathnawi. It's probably the most well known. And in Mathnawi, he says, this is the root of the root of the root of our religion. So he's trying to give the essence of what Islam is about. And it may not, everybody may not understand it, you see. Because people are of different levels of comprehension. Not everybody is equally mature. Okay. So he says it from a deep inner perspective that requires, for understanding, somebody who is willing to open his heart and listen and not be an arrogant. An arrogant person cannot learn anything from anybody, especially from people like Rumi. Because you have to be humble. Without humility, no learning. It's true not only with Sufism, but in every sphere of life. If a student is very arrogant, it doesn't matter how good the teacher is, cannot learn, because he's full of himself. But I mean, if you tell me what inspires you about any religion, it's the same thing. Are you a Buddhist or no religion? Are you Christian?
I respect all religions.
Okay, good.
I'm inspired by Buddhism.
Okay, good. You see, Buddhism is a wonderful religion. I have studied, and I really like it. And in depth, deep down, there is really no difference, as far as I can tell. For instance, I mean, ultimately, Buddhists say go beyond the mind, extinguish the mind. Mind is composed of desires, thoughts. You go beyond, and that beyond is nirvana. After the extinguishing of the mind, after nirvana, you have whatever is there is it. That's the reality beyond the mind. Now we say in Islam, La ilaha illallah. There's nothing to depend on but Allah. And Allah has no limits. If you think you know Allah, you don't know. That means you are limiting. Your understanding of God is limited. Allah is always beyond. That's why you often hear, unfortunately, is this. Some people say Allahu Akbar even after they say bad things, do horrible things. They say Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar means Allah is greater than anything we can conceive. Or another translation is greatest. Allah is great. Often you see it's not a very good translation because it's kind of meaningless. Of course Allah is great. I mean, God is great, yeah. There's nothing new in that message, but greater. Then you are at it, or greatest. So no matter how you conceive, how far you understand, God is always beyond that. So our understanding cannot capture God. It's like only when we can nirvana, only when we can extinguish all our mental conceptions, go beyond, then we might realize. Do you understand? So La ilaha illallah and nirvana doesn't really, from my point of view, have a difference. So if you ask me what inspires me, life as human beings, we have questions. And Islam gives certain answers. And Sufism gives the answer at depth, which is nothing other than Islam again. So this, because I like to think, I like to have answers for questions that any human being might have. Why are we here? Where are we going? What is the purpose of life? So Islam, Rumi, Sufism give profound answers which delights my heart. So does Buddhism. And so does other religions in their own way. Every religion has its own internal logic. Otherwise, millions of people would not stick to it for thousands of years. That doesn't mean there can't be false religions. Of course there can be. But one criterion for judging a religion would be, has the religion produced saintly figures? Saintly figures. Figures with extraordinary grace in what they say, how they behave. And thanks to God, in Islam there are plenty of such characters historically. Even now, you may not hear about them. You only hear about crazy ones, the crazies. But the great saintly figures you don't hear.
So some people say Sufism is like a mysterious.
Well, no. If you say in Buddhism there are some people who you may not fully understand. Let's say a Zen master or a Buddhist master. There's something mysterious about it. They are not like other people. They are like, they have gone beyond a certain level, like ordinary human way of perceiving and doing. I mean, there is a difference between different levels of people. Some people are more mature than others. So they are mature. So you might say that is mysterious also. So in Sufism also, we have some people who have risen far above the ordinary people's level of consciousness and way of behaving.
In the shrine, you said the chalice, or what that chalice is passed on with the family line.
Sorry, Chalabi, the name Chalabi, right?
Yeah.
In
but
Mevlana's, right?
yes, family line.
Uh-huh.
But this kind of awareness that you define and compare to Zen and everything, it's not a bloodline genetic thing. It's a
No, but that's a Chalabi, that has nothing to do with this. Just because you have the name Chalabi doesn't mean you're a master. There are lots of Chalabis who are not teachers.
Master.
No,
But
they're
you
not
showed
teachers.
The master, like this, they implied that the mastership is passed.
No. Let's
Passed on.
in Sufism, it is not by bloodline. Okay, it's about, let's say a Sufi group may have 30, 40, 100,000 people. The sheikh normally, before he passes away, he makes certain people. He designates certain people that after me, this person will lead this group. Sometimes it is the son or daughter, maybe in some cases, but most of the time it is not bloodline. Sometimes it may be, and that has nothing to do with like nepotism, because let's say I'm a great sheikh. Suppose I'm not. I'm nothing. Okay, and if I have a son, if I'm really a sheikh, my son is constantly in my company, so he may have received more blessing than people who see me once a year or once a week. Maybe, because he watches me all the time. Okay. So in that case, the son might be a good person to carry on the father's duty. So for instance, in Rumi's case, after Rumi passed away, not his son, became the leader of the group. And after he passed away, then Rumi's son became the leader. Rumi's son didn't immediately assume the leadership. After Rumi's son passed away, someone else, not his son, someone else, not related by blood, became the next leader of this particular group. Okay. So, and what I'm saying it in essence, you might say, in essence, the different religious, spiritual traditions may be driving at the same goal, but they're not same path. It's like you are a human being, I'm a human being. We both want God, but our paths are not same. You are a Christian, I'm a Muslim. My path is an Islamic format. Your path is a Christian format, even if you love God as much as I do. Okay. Or even physically, my form is not same as his form, but we are both human beings. This world is a world of forms. Whether we are the path we are going on or the path, the world we deal with, we are constantly dealing with forms. Forms have meanings. And different forms of different religions have different meanings. But Islam actually is very open. I think the most open religion in terms of respecting other religious forms, beginning with the Quran. Even though a lot of Muslims will tell you, oh, no, Islam is the only true religion. But there are verses in the Quran that point to the fact that Allah says, God has sent his messengers like Prophet Muhammad is a messenger, to every nation on earth, to every nation. Okay. And Quran also says, with the same message. And moreover, in the language of the people. So it is not true that God only spoke in Arabic. That's total nonsense. The Quran completely denies such a claim. But some people might say that. And as I'm telling you, just like most Christians do not know much about what the Bible says, most Muslims also, unfortunately, especially modern Muslims, don't know much about what the Quran says. or what the Prophet did or said. They only know some basics. I can tell you by my own example. In my teens, I was quite ignorant about Islam, other than knowing how to do my prayers and some basic things. I didn't read the Quran much when I was in my teens. I read in the last 30 years, maybe last 25 years, I have been seriously looking into the Quran.
Can I ask, what's the most important teaching in Sufism and how people can practice in daily life?
How? You remember God with everything you do. Remember La ilaha illallah. There is no other support. Nothing we can seriously rely on except Allah. La ilaha illallah. And do every action with the remembrance of Allah. And if you do that, you will necessarily stay away from bad things. If you want one teaching, but there are so many ways of saying it. Like one would be, I would say, be truthful to yourself and to others. That enough will take you all the way to God. Because if you're truthful, you'll do the right things. You can please sit down.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just put mic to.
You seem Turkish? Okay, all right.
I'm a tour guide of the group from Turkey.
Oh, okay, all right, yes.
I guide.
Okay, all right. I'm just answering their questions about Islam, Tasawwuf, Rumi, like this.
You are from?
I teach here in Necmettin Erbakan University.
So you are from Turkey?
I'm not Turkish, I'm from Bangladesh.
But I think we also know Turkish.
Biraz.
Yes, little bit.
Az anlıyorum, konuşuyorum. Çünkü ben Konyalıyım biraz. Konya'da geçen 8 yıl gibi buradayım. So, more questions?
Not a question. I'm surprised by your answer about the main teaching of Rumi, because when I read his poems, I pick his command is that of love.
Yes, but love is not the only thing he says. He says so many other things. Love is one way, definitely, love is one. But what kind of love, you see?
Actually, I connect with him because as a Christian, our greatest command is to love.
Right, true.
Love God
Right,
and love those on earth. So
right, exactly.
great connection
But,
with Rumi because he insists on that.
Yes, but that's not the only thing he talks about. And, in Islam, actually, this is a very important topic you bring up. Love is very important, but in Islam, the emphasis is true knowledge. In Christianity, the emphasis is on love. In Islam, knowledge that reality is one, God is one, comes first. That is why you don't become a Muslim by saying, I love Muhammad, or I love Allah. You become by saying, Allah is one, truth is one, because Allah's name is truth. That's his name. Reality is one. That makes you ultimately a Muslim. And what Allah is saying in the Quran, that throughout, from the beginning, this is the message I have given to every nation, which we say Tawheed. Okay. Now, if you know the truth is one, reality is one, that means you, I, she, he, him, we have all come from the same source. And the byproduct of that is love. If we are both from exact same source, then I must treat you like myself. Only you understand. If you know the truth, your behavior will be wonderful. But of course, then there is also command to be kind and generous and help. In the Quran, again and again and again, pray and give in charity. Take care of the poor. Take care of the orphans. Help the needy. Pray and give. Pray and give. In this, in the whirling dervish thing you're going to, what you see is them dancing like this, with one hand like this, another hand like this. It's symbolic of the attitude of how Muslims should be. This, you see Muslims pray like this. This is like a hand praying, a receiving from God. And this is a giving hand. Like this position. So what the dance is showing really is how we should live in life. We should receive from God and give. Receive and give. Pray and give in charity. That is love. The Prophet said even a smile is charity. Smile at people. If you cannot do anything, at least smile at them. Talk gently, talk kindly, over and over and over. But you see, in every religion there is a different kind of emphasis. And Islam, knowledge. And the byproduct of knowledge is love. God is also Al-Wadud, one of his names. We say there are at least 99 names of Allah in the Quran. And these are not like name, like James, George, Tariq, my name. It's not that, but qualities. We know him by his qualities. One of the names is Al-Wadud, the loving one. And every love that comes to us comes from him directly, because there is no other but him. La ilaha illallah. Okay, it's a different approach. You see what I mean? But the message is not different. Love is the way. The Prophet said, like Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself. The Prophet said, your faith is not complete until you wish for your neighbor what you wish for yourself. Not neighbor, your brother, what you wish for yourself. Same message. It's a different language, but the essence is one. And the Prophet said, no one is closer to me than Jesus. We are like brothers from the same mother. And he showed with his fingers. We are like this. You may not accept, but that's what we accept, we believe.
So why is Sufi wearing is the keep like a turning on?
Why turning? See, this is called in Turkish sema. It comes from the Arabic word sama. Sama in Arabic means listening. Listening to what? Listening to God. And you see their position is like this. They're not doing like this. They're like this. They're listening and like this. Okay, so they're listening to God. And where is God? God is in your heart. So they're revolving, rotating, moving around. They're like their consciousness, everything, symbolically rotating with center being God. God is the center of your life. So you're listening. You see? You'll probably also hear some people who are sitting down chanting Allah, Allah, Allah. And they're listening to that, you see, and trying to focus God's presence at the heart. This is symbolic. You don't have to be doing this to become a Sufi. And I recommend not for everyone not to try it at home. It takes a long training to be able to do that. Okay.
So when they dance, they like in the heart they say Allah, Allah, Allah.
Right.
Like a mantra when they dance.
Well, Allah for us is a name of reality, name of truth, name of our Creator. So when you are invoking, we are remembering. We are saying it in order so our mind doesn't get distracted. So when we hear, oh, okay, Allah, Allah, Allah. Okay. But this dance is really about how we should live and return to God. Give and receive. Receive and give. And make all your thoughts, all your actions revolve around God who is in your heart. God said that heaven and earth cannot contain me, but I dwell in the heart of my servant. And in Islam, we are all servants of God. Even the prophet is a servant of God. You cannot be a prophet without being a servant of God. Yeah. Because only when you totally surrender, God can work through you. So we say Muhammad is Abdullah. He's a servant of Allah.
So, as a Sufi, in addition to seeking knowledge from someone, what else is?
You do the regular Muslim practice of following the Sharia. That's the first step. You pray 5 times a day. You fast during Ramadan. Then you give charity. You know, there is Muslims give charity. And what they give normally, this 1/40th of what you have, that's the bare minimum that you must give to belong to the Muslim club. That doesn't mean once you give, don't do anything else, just ignore needy people. But that's the bare minimum you should give. This is Sharia. This is 90% of Sharia. A lot of Westerners think Sharia means cutting hand. But our prayers 5 times a day, that is like the number one thing of Sharia. Those who do not pray, they are not observing the Sharia. That's the number one thing.
And dervish dancing.
That is totally unimportant, unfortunately. That is not a requirement for Sufism. But in Rumi's group, they do that. But it is not essential for spiritual progress. That's total nonsense. That's a peripheral activity in Sufism. Some groups do that, others don't. Okay, this is a misconception that many people have, including some Muslims, modern Muslims. This whirling dance is practiced by some Sufis, not everybody. And even those who belong to this Rumi's particular Sufi order, most of them don't, only those who are trained to do so. But it has a symbolic meaning for all of us.
So as an observer to the Sufis, what benefit do you obtain by watching the dance?
What it means. I don't practice dancing at home. As I said, it requires a lot of practice to dance like that constantly. You will see they're dancing for half an hour, 40 minutes, they're going like this. You will faint. I will faint also. What is that? That's symbolic. I'm trying to tell you that it has a symbolic meaning for most people. That they're trying to make their whole life revolve around God. It's like if you ask me, why do you pray? Why do anybody pray? Why do Christians pray? We also pray for the same reason, to get nearer to God.
Thanks for those useful knowledge.
Sorry?
Thanks for those useful knowledge for us.
Well, you already know, I suppose.
Every time, for each week, are you here?
Yeah, normally because there was other 2 people are more important. They don't have time.
The next week, I will come earlier.
Okay.
And without group.
Without?
Group. Because my
Oh, I
group
see.
is
Okay.
here.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care.
Have a nice
Assalamu
evening.
alaikum.
Thanks a lot.
We still have a lot of time, actually. This thing begins at 7 o'clock, this whirling thing, and it begins very slowly. So we have another 14 minutes. You can ask any question about Islam, about Rumi, about Sufism, whatever. But they're all same, So any question about any of them, the answer will be same.
So in seeking of knowledge,
Yeah.
having a guide to you seeking knowledge, you have the sheikh. Is he different from the normal sheikh in the mosque? Do you have to sit, talk to him?
In the norm, you see, in Christianity, you have a priest.
Yeah.
Without the priest, the thing doesn't work. For us, we don't have a priest. Okay. Anybody today, I can stand in front and lead the prayer, and he, she, they can follow. Or one day he can lead and we can both follow. Anybody can lead, or I can pray by myself. Okay. But in Christianity, you have a priest. It's a different kind of role. Okay. But our imam is anybody who is leading the prayer at any time. I can be the imam today. Tomorrow, she can be imam for women. He can be imam for other men. It doesn't matter. Whoever is leading in front is the imam. But a Sufi sheikh is somebody who is spiritually mature, not just knowing how to do the prayer, or has memorized, and not just memorizing the Quran and saying the right things during the prayer. You see what I mean? A Sufi sheikh who is...
He teaches, or he has...
He teaches. Of course, if he cannot teach, he teaches, but also by his life's example.
So he has the obligation to give an extraordinary life.
Yes, he must be a perfect example. Perfect, maybe too much to ask for, but but way above ordinary people. And something, I mean, I would say there is a kind of an inner glow that you feel in their presence, often through the eyes. You see, as if they're seeing, I mean, my experience is often when I think I've met a few good ones, as if they're seeing beyond what an ordinary person sees, with a kind of a selflessness, you know.
So it's more, in the guidance point, it's more observatory.
It's not just observance, but also words, what they say, and also they see, in a way they see the state of your soul. Okay? Like you cannot easily hide to a real sheikh. You cannot pretend to be, oh, you are such a good person. Because he or she might, in a way, know what your really quality is. You cannot just have a beard and a cap and that will not work. Yeah. I mean, there is a difference between somebody who is a scholar and somebody who is spiritually mature, a ripened fruit and a raw fruit. You see, that's the difference. Both are fruit, same type.
Any names you would recommend to look up?
Right now, well, in America, you know, I spent a lot of my time in America, and there was one great sheikh, Bawa Muhyiddin in Philadelphia. He was originally from Sri Lanka, actually, but he passed away. Some equally great one, I'm not sure right now, but they don't publicize themselves. You know, they don't run. They're not at the head of governments normally. You know, they're not like big political leaders. There was another.
Yeah, I was asking, like, so the school, is that what I was expecting? Someone like the one you said, does he have like a school or?
Does he? Who?
So
A sheikh?
Yeah, a sheikh. Yeah.
No, he doesn't have to have a school. He could be living in a village with only a few people knowing him. He doesn't have to have a. It is.
So he could also be my classmate.
Could be possible.
Yeah.
Could be your classmate. I met one sheikh in Bangladesh, in an obscure village in Bangladesh. Nobody knows. Even in Bangladesh, hardly anybody knew him. But when I went there were like 15 people sitting near, and I could feel that he's not of this world. I mean, there was something special about him. And 1 year later, I heard he passed away, and nobody knows him. You know, I mean, only a few, maybe the village people know. Because they don't publish, they don't have a need for that kind of publicity, you see. These crazy people, they need to be known.
But Rumi has become like
Rumi was an example, for example. Rumi was an example of a great sheikh. And there have been many others, by the way, many others.
so I was asking for the name of like a modern one.
Modern one, you know, there is somebody I know, but I'm not supposed to tell his name. And
Maybe the one who just recently died.
no, recently, no, this Bawa Muhyiddin I mentioned. Bawa Muhyiddin, his name is B-A-W-A, Sheikh B-A-W-A. He passed away some time ago.
Muhi?
No, but B-A-W-A is the first name.
Oh, Bawa.
Uh-huh. Sheikh Bawa, B-A-W-A, Bawa, M-U, the way they write is no.
With is?
H-A-H-A-Y-Y, then E-E-N. Something like that. If you type it in, you will see. Or his, this organization, there is a, website, www.bmfbawamuhyiddinfellowship.org. It's a very enlightened, good one. bmf.org.